All right, welcome back. So we're gonna do another session of Mbsr training. That's just I think the most important thing right now, because after this series of failures of technical exams, I've been having trouble focusing on them. I've been having trouble choosing which ones to go for, and just all in all, I felt like I've been having a lot of anxiety, depression, and stress. So one small step I can do to incrementally make improvements. MBSR. It's all kinds of scientific evidence that MBSR can help people with high stress jobs do better, to lower their incidences of depression, anxiety, and stress, to make it so that they have a baseline of kind of happiness and general, like, how you feel from day to day. Like, do you feel just generally you're a really happy person, you feel really good day to day, or do you feel just not that great day to day? So I definitely identify as the latter, rather than the former. So this is another reason why it's such a big priority to me, because there's also scientific studies that show that when you have a event, whether it's a positive or a negative event, soon after the event, you're going to return to your baseline state, whether it was a positive or negative event. So there's evidence that you can have that baseline state that you're always returning to after something tragic happens or something wonderful happens. You can set that point by meditating, and you can raise it up so that you're always kind of, because everyone knows, the really awesome guy who's like always in a good mood, and you can kind of turn yourself into that. Is the claims that are being made in the scientific literature. So, and you can do that through meditation, through working on it, through through MBSR. So last video, which was yesterday, I did my first yoga session, which is part of the MBSR training. And yeah, I know it might sound like woo to some people. It certainly did to me. I kind of identify as a skeptic, but again, you can just go to the scientific research section of the course I'm using, and that's kind of what convinced me. So for this video, what I'm going to do is another round of formal practice. So it's not going to be the same as it was yesterday. They want kind of a complex pattern of formal practices. They want to alternate between yoga and then the other ones. So they want you to do yoga 3 times this week, but they want to do other forms of meditation. So this one is going to be the sitting meditation. So I definitely want to get on that as soon as I can. Then the other one is going to be, you know what? I could probably get the informal out of the way. So last week we did a pleasant experiences log, where we just remembered experiences that were pleasant. But now this week, this is kind of the easier one for me. We're going to remember unpleasant experiences. So yesterday, during the yoga section, I was just feeling how obese I was and how my left knee is kind of messed up. He was causing my breathing to be constricted. I had a lot of I'm not sure if anyone can relate to this, but I had a lot of like no pain, where like I'm not in pain, like there's no pain, but it feels like it's like one level below pain. It's like the pain is at a level 0, but like if there wasn't any kind of pain at all, it wouldn't even be. So it's like a non-pain pain. Sometimes I feel that way, especially in my left knee, which is kind of, I just got over 6 months of it being in chronic pain. So even though it's not in pain, it's kind of in non-pain. Like it feels very like unreliable. It feels like it could go wrong. It feels like it could just like pop and like do something weird. So even though it doesn't hurt, it just feels kind of unreliable. And then kind of embarrassment over my obesity. um, feeling really careful with my knee, kind of tender on it, even though there's no pain. And then it caused me to get some cramping in my upper hamstring a little bit. So now today's not over yet. There's a long day today. So it really wasn't anything unpleasant. I kind of, that's the point, is I kind of designed my life to be pretty pleasant and not to have anything unpleasant. So yeah, there really wasn't anything unpleasant today. I guess, let's see here. Yeah, there really wasn't anything too unpleasant. I guess the one thing was waiting for an appointment to start. And was I aware? You know what? I wasn't at the time. I really had to think here, and I had to come up with that. So I felt a little bit of anger, and disappointment. Felt like I was like getting scammed. Getting scammed. Thought about calling 311 to complain to someone. Yeah, so that's definitely how that made me feel. Moods and sensations and feelings. I guess just a lot of like anxiety, because I was wondering if something was wrong on my end. I was really worried that I had messed. So a lot of worry that I was the reason the meeting was starting late. All right, and then yeah, so that it doesn't have to be complicated, it's just a few words is fine. So what thoughts, sensations do I notice as I write this down? So relief, simply it started late. The actual appointment was very important that I kept. It was worth the wait. The action I took to verify it wasn't on my end, which was grabbing my laptop, set me up for success when I said that I didn't have a webcam. So yeah, it was good that my response to this wasn't just to sit there and stew and go, the world is terrible. Was to get my laptop because I knew I didn't have a webcam here, so I thought maybe it wasn't starting on time because of that. So to get my laptop to pull that up, and then I got a message, sorry, it's starting late, and then it started, and it was a good thing I had my laptop, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to keep the appointment, and it would have been an issue on my end because a webcam was required. So yeah, that was a little bit unpleasant for sure. If you show up to a meeting and it starts significantly late, like more than 10 minutes late, that's a little bit unpleasant. So that's a good one for today. So the informal log is done. So I'll close this out. All right, and then next will be the formal practice, which will be the sitting meditation. Now, I've done this many times before on here, but we're going to do it one more time for this video. and I'll do it with the captions on so that there's not so much dead air on here. Now, before I do that, I do want to actually read the text here. I forgot to read that. So let's start with the quotes. The practice of meditation is not really about establishing inner stillness. The moments of stillness are one of meditation's bypractice, not the practice itself. And that's a great quote. So there are 5 facets of mindfulness. So observing, describing, acting with awareness, non-judging, and non-reactivity. So that's the goal. It's to be able to act with awareness, take the best possible actions you can, and you know, like I said in my informal practice, if I just got angry, I hung up the phone, I threw my laptop against the and I called 911 because I got robbed of 10 minutes of my time, you know, that would not be a good action. But you know, if I went and got my other computer to make sure it wasn't a problem on my end, you know, if I simply you know, kept busy with something else while I was waiting, to kind of put my mind at ease, those are much better actions. And if you just have uncontrollable anger, you know, those other options aren't really available. So that's really important, to be able to have non-reactivity, to allow unpleasant thoughts, feelings, and sensations to come and go without reacting to them. And I would say even pleasant thoughts, you know, a delicious thing in your fridge that you're craving. Well, you know, you already ate too much today, so you can save it for tomorrow. Or like, oh, well, you're in the middle of something, you know, eating can wait for another half an hour until dinner time, you know. So it's not just unpleasant thoughts. Okay, so let me read the other quote here. So you don't suffer because you have thoughts. You suffer because you judge them, resist them, believe them, wallow in them, or identify with them. So this is week 3, which I started yesterday. Dealing with thoughts. Introduction to yoga. At this point in your practice, you may be noticing just how busy the mind is with replays of past events, expectations, fears about the future, or evaluations of present experience. I like this, don't like that, when will this be over, etc. It can seem that the object of meditation is to get rid of all thoughts and distractions, and when that isn't happening, you may feel like you are failing at meditation, or the meditation can turn into a struggle, wanting your experience to be different than it is. In fact, the kind of meditation you are learning is more about working skillfully with any internal or external experience, and isn't really about getting rid of thoughts and distractions. In fact, it can be said that wandering thoughts are the weights that train the muscles of the mind. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. If you're constantly thinking about a hard problem or something you're trying to solve, clearing your mind, I don't think that's good advice. Like, you want to be thinking through and coming up with real solutions. There's a productive way of having an inner monologue, and that's what I'm aiming for. Yeah, you want your inner dialogue to be your best friend rather than your worst enemy. So videos. It's common for there to be a sense of pushing oneself in meditation, and the first video, Non-Striving, addresses the possibility of taking the striving out of meditation and life. The second video, Attention, Intention, Attitude, explores the attitude we take toward ourselves in meditation, which is often harsh, and the possibility of being gentler with ourselves. In the next 2 videos, Your Thoughts Are Bubbles and Dealing with Thoughts in Life and Meditation, John Kabat-Zinn and Tara Brach each talk about the idea that meditation is not about getting rid of thoughts, but about changing our relationship with them. Finally, The Samurai and the Fly is a vivid dramatization illustrating how trying to stop thoughts or push away distractions not only doesn't work, it actually makes things worse. Reading. The reading list this week begins with Mindful Yoga by John Kabat-Zinn, and I actually think I already knocked that one off because it was part of the instructions here. You needed to do this first before doing any of the informal practice, so I've got that one knocked off. Even if you are an experienced yoga practitioner, it's important to read this before beginning the yoga practice that begins this week. In Meditation, It's Not What You Think, John Kabat-Zinn points out that's kind of a funny so it points out that while meditation can often be accompanied by peace and relaxation, meditation is not relaxation spelled differently. Yeah, and meditation is not about what you think either. It's about, being mindfully aware of your breathing and letting those thoughts come and go. As Eric Wickstrom says in the quote above, the moments of stillness are one of meditation's byproducts, not the practice itself. The last 3 brief articles by Wes Nisker and Jack Cornfield explore more deeply the relationship between meditation and thoughts. Daily practices. For the formal practice this week, we introduce mindful yoga, Yoga 1, into your 30-minute practice, alternating with the sitting meditation and choosing one day to do a body scan. This is all outlined in your week 3 practice log below. Even if you are an experienced yoga practitioner, be sure to read Mindful Yoga in the reading below before beginning the yoga practice. Mindful yoga is different than many traditional yoga practices in that there is less of a focus on the exact posture achieved and more focus on mind-body awareness. The informal practice is about becoming aware of how we experience and process unpleasant events. Just as in previous weeks, allow a few minutes before going to sleep to complete the informal practices log. Below are your materials for this week. So we already saw a non-striving. So the next one's a pretty long video, about 16 minutes. And then the next reading is Meditation, It's Not What You Think. This one's just a page, not too bad. But let's get that formal practice out of the way because that's the really long one. That's going to take a full half an hour. So let's get that out of the way, and then if I'm feeling good, I'll maybe knock off some more material. So with no further ado, we need to get this done here. I am going to pause. I have to go to the bathroom. I don't want to do this half an hour meditation only thinking about that. So I'll pause and I'll be right back, and then we'll start. All right, I'm back. So now it's time for a 30-minute sitting meditation.
This segment guides you through a sitting meditation with breath as the primary object of awareness. Arranging to spend this time in a comfortable but attentive posture, preferably sitting up without leaning back for support if that's possible for you, and at a time and in a place where you won't be disturbed. Sitting in a dignified posture, head balanced on shoulders, arms and hands resting in a comfortable position. This is a time for allowing ourselves to switch from our normal mode of doing and moving and reacting to one of simply being, just being attentive to what is happening within your own awareness right here and right now. And as you sit, just noticing sensations of breath. Just noticing how your abdomen moves on each in-breath and out-breath. The movement of air through your nostrils. The slight movement of chest and shoulders. Just bringing awareness to whichever part of the breath cycle and wherever in your body it is most vivid, whether it be your tummy or your chest or your shoulders or the movement of air through your nostrils. Noticing the entire cycle of breath. From the movement of the air coming in and filling the lungs and extending the abdomen slightly. The movement of air going out, and being aware of the pause, the stopping point in between the in-breath and the out-breath and the out-breath and the next in-breath. It's all one movement. Even through the changing of direction, just noticing where that pause is. Seeing to what degree you can be aware of the whole entire cycle. Recognizing that each part of the cycle is different than another part. And this time through may be different than the last time through, and each one is absolutely unique in its own way if you pay attention. You'll notice your attention from time to time shifting away from breath. The mind may wander into fantasies or memories, thoughts of the day, worries that you might have, things you need to do. And without giving yourself a hard time, when you notice that that's happened, just gently but firmly bring your awareness back to the sensations of breathing. The actual physical sensations of breath as it moves through your body. Being aware of where the mind goes. Gently shifting your awareness to sensations of breath. And noticing the tendency to want to control your breathing. Letting the quality of attention be light and easy. One of simply observing and noticing. just as if you were on a float on a gently undulating sea, where you go up with one wave and down with the next. You don't control the duration of the waves or the depth between the waves. You're just riding. And it's gently coming back to sensations of breathing. And you may notice that there are sounds in addition to the sounds that come from this recording. Sounds of traffic or movement or something else going on. And just noticing that your attention is moved to that perception of sound. And staying with it just long enough to notice the quality of the sound. Sound is vibration, tone, volume or intensity. Being aware of the tendency of the mind to label sound as traffic, or as voices, or as music. And coming closer to the actual experience of the sound as it hits your eardrums. Qualities of pitch or rhythm or intensity. Separating out the actual reception of sound from the labels we put on it. And if you've been paying attention to sound or notice that you've gone off to be noticing the perceptions of sound, bringing your attention once again back to breath. Letting your breath be your anchor of awareness. So that each time your awareness goes somewhere else, just gently coming back to breath without judgment or any upset, if you can do that. And just say, well, my attention's gone somewhere else, just coming back to breath. Noticing the tendency to have an opinion about things, about liking the way things are going right now, not liking it, finding it uncomfortable. That too can be an object of awareness, just noticing that you have an opinion about things often. So that's my liking mind, just liking this. There's my critical mind, saying would rather have things be different than they are. And that too can be noticed. And building the capacity to notice liking or disliking and not to have to do anything about it. How freeing that is. And as you notice that happening, just bringing your awareness to the physical sensations of breath, wherever it's most vivid for you. Just riding the entire cycle, one cycle after another. You may notice your attention shifting to body sensations, sensations of achiness or discomfort, of tension. And as you notice these sensations of discomfort, if that happens for you, there's several things that can be done with such a sensation. And one is to simply, if it's one that can be remedied by shifting a little bit, one way to deal with the sensation is to allow yourself to shift. But in doing that first becoming aware of the sensation, noticing precisely where the achiness or the tension might be. And once you're aware of where that is, developing an intention to move and moving mindfully and with full intent to to make that motion. That's one way to deal with a strong sensation. A second way, and neither one is better than the other as long as full awareness is brought to all parts, is to notice that sensation, noticing it in its fullness, being curious about the extent of it, how your experience of it is at the moment, the actual physical sensations of tension or of throbbing or of tightness or of pulling or tingling. And the second way of dealing with it is just to notice that it's possible to stay for a moment longer with that sensation and experience as pure sensation without the labels of discomfort or tension or achiness, just noticing just where it is. Noticing your experience of it. And staying with it without having to react to it, at least for the moment. And if your attention keeps getting pulled back to that area of intense sensation, knowing that you have those two choices of forming an intention to do something about it and mindfully doing it, but forming the intention first, or bringing your intention and attention right into it, being curious about it. How big is it? How long is it? What quality does it have? How is it changing over time? And wherever the mind goes, in terms of thoughts or liking or disliking, perceptions of sensation or hearing of sound, or feelings of peace or of sadness, or of frustration, or of anticipation. Just noticing these are all thought forms and bringing awareness to sensations, to the movement of breath. being curious about breath, observing that no two breaths are exactly the same. And seeing if it's possible to have a friendly attitude towards whatever comes into your awareness. Now, if your mind has gone off on a fantasy or a thought or a judgment or a worry or a sensation or a sound, just in a friendly way, noticing that this is happening and coming back to breath. Recognizing the entire cycle of awareness is important to this experience, including the movement from breath and including the coming back. Nothing to do but ride the waves of breath. seeing if it's possible at those moments when your awareness has gone somewhere else, noticing how that flicker of attention happens, that moment when you realize it is somewhere else and somewhere other than breath. And at that moment, seeing if it's possible to have an attitude of celebration, of congratulation, of recognition that this is a moment of awareness. You acknowledge yourself for noticing you've gone somewhere else. And just easily bring your attention back to breath in a friendly and a non-judgmental way. As this meditation comes to an end, recognizing that you've spent this time intentionally aware of your moment-to-moment experience, nourishing and strengthening your ability to be with whatever comes your way, building the capacity for opening the senses to the vividness, to the aliveness of the present moment, expanding your skill to be curious and available about whatever presents itself without judgment. And when you're ready, allowing the eyes to let some light in if you've had them closed. And permitting yourself now to shift or to stretch in whatever way feels comfortable as the sitting meditation ends.
Hi, my name is Dr. Lynn Ross.
All right, sorry about that dead air there for a minute or so at the end. So I decided to go out and do it on my porch, be outside. Sometimes it's just nice to be outside. So there we go. So as easy as that. So now we're gonna have just as before. So now we need to, in the comment field, put just a few words to remind you of your impressions of that particular section. So, felt obese, felt kind of like, my torso area was restricting. My breathing felt a lot of pain in the ball of my right foot. Near the end, felt a lot of itching. So that's as easy as it has to be. You just need to do a few words and then you're done. So the hard part is doing the full 30 minutes. So there we go. I've got the formal done. I've got the informal done. I've read the description here for week 3. So next would be this 16-minute video, or this or some of the readings here. I feel like it might be good to knock off the 16-minute video because we've got 4 different. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 remaining days of this week. So that they might just kind of all they might all just kind of add up, especially if I'm interested in getting done the supplemental materials, and I might find myself overwhelmed later. So I think I am gonna take a moment and get this 16-minute video out of the way, possibly also the 5-minute one because it's short, and then the article here. And if this is a short article, probably this one as well. So this is a 2-pager, which is kind of long. This is just a 1-pager. So let's do that. We're gonna get these 2 videos done, and then we're gonna get a reading done, so that there's not too much to do near the end of the week. So I'll pause it, and when I'll come back, we'll knock those off. All right, so I am back. So let's get the reading out of the way, because that's gonna be a little bit harder. So this is Meditation, It's Not What You Think by Jon Kabat-Zinn, the inspiration behind this course. He's not the author of this course, but the author made this course because of John. It might be good to clarify a few common misunderstandings about meditation right off the bat. First, meditation is best thought of as a way of being rather than a technique or collection of techniques. I'll say it again. Meditation is a way of being, not a technique. This doesn't mean that there aren't methods and techniques associated with meditation practice. There are. In fact, there are hundreds of them, and we will be making good use of some of them. But without understanding all techniques are orienting vehicles pointing at ways of being in relationship to the present moment and to one's own mind and one's own experience, we can easily get lost in techniques and in our misguided but completely understandable attempts to use them to get somewhere else and experience some special result or state that we think is the goal of it all. Second, meditation is not relaxation spelled differently. Perhaps I should say that again. Meditation is not relaxation spelled differently. That doesn't mean that meditation is not frequently accompanied by profound states of relaxation and by deep feelings of well-being. Of course it is, or can be sometimes. But mindfulness meditation is the embrace of any and all mind states in awareness without preferring one to another. From the point of view of mindfulness practice, pain or anguish, or for that matter, boredom or impatience, or frustration or anxiety or tension in the body are all equally valid objects of our attention if we find them arising in the present moment, each a rich opportunity for insight and learning, and potentially for liberation rather than signs that our meditation practice is not succeeding because we are not feeling relaxed or experiencing bliss in some moment. We might say that meditation is really a way of being appropriate to the circumstances one finds oneself in any and every moment. If we are caught up in the preoccupations of our own mind, in that moment we cannot be present in an appropriate way or perhaps at all. We will bring an agenda of some kind to whatever we say or do or think, even if we don't know it. For meditation, and especially mindfulness meditation, it is not the throwing of a switch and catapulting yourself anywhere, nor is it entertaining certain thoughts and getting rid of others, nor is it making your mind blank or willing yourself to be peaceful or relaxed. It is really an inward gesture that inclines the heart and mind, seen as one seamless whole, toward a full spectrum awareness of the present moment just as it is, accepting whatever is happening simply because it is already happening. Meditation is not about trying to get anywhere else. It is about allowing yourself to be exactly where you are and as you are, and for the world to be exactly as it is in this moment as well. This is not so easy, since there is always something that we can rightly find fault with if we stay inside our thinking. And so there tends to be great resistance on the part of the body and the mind to settle into things just as they are, even for a moment. That resistance to what is may be even more compounded if we are meditating, because we hope that by doing so, we can affect change, make things different, improve our own lives, and contribute to improving the lot of the world. So, from the point of view of awareness, any state of mind is a meditative state. Anger or sadness is just as interesting and useful and valid to look into as enthusiasm or delight, and far more valuable than a blank mind, a mind that is insensate, out of touch. Anger, fear, terror, sadness, resentment, impatience, enthusiasm, delight, confusion, disgust, contempt, envy, rage, lust, even dullness, doubt, and torpor. That's a new one for me. I don't even know what that means. So a state of physical or mental inactivity, lethargy. In fact, all, and let's hear how it's pronounced.
Torpor.
Torpor, I got that right. In fact, all mind states and body states are occasions to know ourselves better if we can stop, look, and listen. In other words, if we can come to our senses and be intimate with what presents itself in awareness in and every moment. In any and every moment. The astonishing thing, so counterintuitive, is that nothing else needs to happen. We can give up trying to make something special occur. In letting go of wanting something special to occur, maybe we can realize that something very special is already occurring and always already occurring, namely life emerging in each moment as awareness itself. Perfect. So there we go. Got that out of the way. Won't be there. So this is the next one.
What led you to this path of focusing on mindfulness and how it can be applied to everyday life? I'm always so interested in people's stories and how they wind up where we are today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm interested too in people's stories. And for me, I was studying at Duke University, and I was studying mind-body medicine, and it was kind of the whole revolution of psychoneuroimmunology. And there's a lot of research saying, think happy thoughts and be positive, and then your natural killer cells will go up and your immune system will go up, and it's good for you. And I was 19, and I didn't always feel happy. I felt sometimes really lost and confused and lonely, and I didn't really know what to do with that. And it felt inauthentic to kind of always have to be happy and think positive thoughts. And yet on the flip side, I was like, oh crap, I'm going to get cancer or something, because all this research is showing think happy thoughts and it leads to stronger immune functioning. And that summer, I was studying on a NOLS course, a National Outdoor Leadership School in New Mexico, and you go out into nature for a month and just live simply. And my father, who is a long-term meditator, had just received John Kabat-Zinn's book, it was Wherever You Go, There You Are. And he said, why don't you take this with you on your backpacking trip? I said, no, it's a hardcover. I don't want, too much weight. Yeah. And he said, why don't you try? So I took it, and while I was living in nature, really simply, I started reading about mindfulness. And it was one of those moments where everything in my body just said, yes, this is truth. This feels like truth in my own experience. And from that moment forward, a lot shifted in my life. And I started studying and exploring mindfulness, and ended up going to Thailand and Nepal to really study deeper and immerse myself. And when I came back, I said, I want to keep studying, and I want to study mindfulness. What kind of program could I become part of? And it seemed like clinical psychology was the best choice. Although I remember when I started, they said, if you ever want to go into academia, you better stop studying this meditation stuff, if you want to be taken seriously. And I had an advisor, Gary Schwartz, who really believed in studying what you were passionate about. And he said, if this is what you love, if this is what's really true in your heart, do it. He said, but learn how to do statistics and rigorous methodology too, because you're going to be held to a higher standard. So that was it. And it's amazing, looking back, that was 1996 that I started my PhD program. And now mindfulness is so much a part of mainstream culture, but also medicine and psychology.
I was noticing that some of the dissertations and things that you've worked on have been about bringing mindfulness into professional fields, medicine, law, maybe law enforcement. What are some things that you've seen as far as the benefits that go into those fields, and also some of the concerns that those fields may be expressing when it comes to actually having a practice?
Yeah. So in terms of the benefits, one thing I've been really interested in is compassion and empathy, because a lot of the professionals I work with are physicians, nurses, and psychotherapists. And this program that I'm a professor in is a master's program in counseling psychology. And so really what I've been interested in is how do we best train people in these healing and helping professions? How do we cultivate compassion? How do we cultivate presence and empathy? And mindfulness is an obvious way to train the mind and the heart to be more present, to be more compassionate, and also to be more compassionate to ourselves. I really, as my practice has deepened, have come to recognize how important that piece is. How I think in the beginning of my, quote, spiritual practice or my meditation practice, I was very disciplined and really wanted to do it right. And so there was a striving involved and a real, almost rigidity and a lot of self-judgment. And what I began to realize is I was using my practice as just one more way to be perfect, one more way to beat myself up, one more way to see how I didn't measure up. And so this piece of self-compassion and self-care, I think, is an essential part of the practice. And so when I'm training healthcare professionals, when I'm training physicians or people in the helping professions, I really like to emphasize that mindfulness is not just about attention. It's not just another practice or cognitive behavioral technique. It's attention with a certain intention. The intention to be curious and kind and compassionate and accepting of whatever my experience is. Even if it's not how I want it to be, even if I'm not how I want myself to be, I can hold all of it with kindness. So that's really how I'm working with mindfulness and working with it with professionals. And you asked about kind of one of the dangers or pitfalls, and I think there's two. One is in our culture, non-doing is not really valued. And so a lot of my students will say, I'm so busy, I have so many people to help, I have a family, I have this career I'm trying to begin, I don't have time for this practice. And so I think one piece is just beginning to help people value it and understand that this is actually essential to being fully alive and essential to taking care of yourself and taking care of your patients. And so I say to them, did you have time to brush your teeth today? Did you go to the bathroom today? And they look at me, yes, of course. So I kind of view a practice in the similar vein, that this is about self-care, and it should be valued in that same way. So that's one piece, is just finding the time and really valuing it. The other piece that's challenging is getting back to that perfectionism. I find a lot of my students, most of them are women in the counseling program, there's this way in which it's never enough. They're never doing it right, and they're not okay. This sense that I'm not enough, I'm not okay, and this real self-judgment, and I'll even say self-loathing. And it's so sad to even use that word and that languaging. And yet, as I experience it in my own life, and as I am more authentic with them, and they're able to be more honest with me, there's a real sense that I'm not okay, that we're all feeling that same way, of the sense that I should be more generous, more patient, more kind. And what mindfulness can do, I think, at its deepest level, is start breaking down that ego identity that's saying you're not okay. However, one of the dangers with mindfulness is it becomes one more way to, with a really laser beam attention, criticize yourself.
And I find that to be the case a lot with some of my people in my cohort, or maybe myself as well. We'll be in meditation, I'll immediately judge right in the middle of it, like, oh, I shouldn't have thought that, or, right, oh, my mind just went off, or, oh, you're not paying attention to the sounds like you should be.
Right.
Isn't that part of the natural human condition, though, as well, just to kind of always want to do things the way they're supposed to be done?
I think there's an underlying anxiety that a lot of us have of, it's supposed to be this way, and I'm not quite meeting up, or there's some right way out there, and I just can't figure it out. If I just think a little harder, then I'll find the perfect way, and then I'll be happy. Instead of actually trusting that by just being with things as they are and resting, that's where happiness is found, not something out here. So one of my teachers said to me, it's one of the best teachings, she said, when you notice your mind wandering off, notice how you come back. Notice the tone of your voice. Notice the quality of your attention as you come back. Are you saying, darn it, Shauna, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Or are you saying, oh, hooray, I'm back. And just celebrating that you're back. Because the moment your mind has wandered off, the moment you know that it's wandered off, you're already back. One of my students last week, she goes, Dr. Shapiro, it was really interesting this week. My mind wandered off. I noticed it, and I said, welcome home. The moment she noticed it, that was her response, instead of, what's wrong with you? And so I really believe it's how you're attending, how you're practicing that's important. It's not just the practice. Some people kind of sit down and they get in their posture, and it's like, okay, now I'm meditating. And this is how you do it, and this is good for me. And there's, we know about neuroplasticity. What you practice is what becomes stronger. If I'm practicing this rigid, striving, judgmental, I have to do it right, those are the pathways that are becoming stronger. And so for me, the practice is, am I cultivating softness in my heart? Am I cultivating clear seeing? Am I cultivating kindness, flexibility, ease, curiosity, discernment? That's what I want to be practicing.
And it's funny you say that, because when I think of that, I think of the typically maybe Eastern point of view, and I've been reading a lot of articles where they talk about the American point of view, even when it comes to spirituality as a whole, that it's something we need to strive for. I need to be spiritual within 5 years in order to reach that goal of being, the spiritual person who everyone's going to admire or whatnot. And I think that that's a really beautiful way of discerning whether or not how we're looking at this as a practice.
Right. We're looking at it as a way to change and to make things different so we can finally be happy, instead of a way to actually embrace life and to actually know something about what it means to be alive, to actually feel that aliveness moving through us. And children teach us perfectly, being with babies, being with my grandpa right now who's in transition and dying. Feeling his aliveness and his presence and his joyfulness is, for me, the most exquisite teaching. That's what this practice is about. When I'm sitting, resting into that and holding all the other things that arise, such as a lot of sadness for me right now, a lot of grief and some anger at life as it is, but holding all that in this aliveness and really feeling it instead of trying to change it or tune it out. And that's, I think, the beauty of the practice, is that whatever's happening in this moment is okay. There's so much space.
I think a lot of us think that being spiritual means having to do something different than who we actually are. Yeah. And so I think that that's, for me, it was really tricky for me to understand how mindfulness could actually be spiritual. Does that make sense?
Yeah. For me, the word spiritual often has so many different meanings and baggage for different people, and there's almost like a way that it moves me outside of my experience. For me, at the deepest level, being spiritual means being alive, fully alive here, in this moment, in this body. And I sometimes say to my students, they'll be sitting there in class and we'll be talking about mindfulness, and I rarely use the word spiritual. I try to keep it as academic as possible. But we'll be sitting there, and I say, do you know what it means to be alive right now? Sometimes I see your eyes glazed over, and your body doesn't go anywhere, but I know your mind's gone. Your body's just sitting here. It's this empty shell. I want to see you fully alive and embodied and inhabiting your aliveness and feeling it in each moment as best you can. And that, to me, is being spiritual.
Just to tag off of that, do you have any idea what you want to focus on for the upcoming conference, the ITP ATP conference, as far as your speech? Have you thought about it at all? Maybe something that's new or something that you've been kind of marinating in?
Well, I'm delighted to be part of this conference, and I think it's so important, weaving together different ideas of spirituality and psychology, and really inquiring into what does spirituality mean, what are the promises, what are the pitfalls, what is our vision, what is our intention. And I think for me, what I'd like to talk about, because I'll be speaking about mindfulness, is really inquiring into what is mindfulness and looking at the essential components, which I believe involve intention. Again, what is our vision? Why are we even practicing? Right? So it doesn't just become one more thing to do. Our intention, our attention. Where am I placing my attention? What am I cultivating? Where do I want to focus attention? And then our attitude. What is the attitudinal quality I bring to my attentional focus? Which is what I've been talking a bit with you about, is am I bringing compassion and curiosity and ease to my attention? Or am I striving and rigid? As an example, when I first went to my very first retreat, it was in Thailand at a monastery called Wat Suan Mok. And I didn't speak Thai, and the monk didn't speak English, a little bit, but not very much. And so I understood that I was supposed to feel the breath coming in and out through my nose. And I just graduated from Duke University, and I felt like I could kind of make my mind do what I wanted it to. And I sat there for days upon days, and I couldn't do it. Maybe for a couple breaths, and my mind would wander. And I became so frustrated and so kind of judgmental of myself. Why can't I do this? What's wrong with my mind? And then judgmental of them. Like, why are they just sitting there doing this? Like, what's the point? And, it was hot. It was 110 degrees. And mosquitoes were biting me. And, that whole thing of not harming so you couldn't swat them. And, getting more and more irritated. Yeah. And a monk from London came. And I said, please, can I have an interview with you? And so we sat, and I told him my experience. And he said, oh, you're not practicing mindfulness. You're practicing impatience and anger and judgment and self-righteousness. And those are what are getting stronger. He said, the attitude with which you pay attention is essential. And that really stayed with me. And in my academic work, and when I write about mindfulness, even in the scholarly journals, I talk about attitude, about kindness, about care, about acceptance, and that this is an essential part of mindfulness. It's not just some add-on, right, just to be sweet. It's actually essential. And so in the conference, I really want to be nuanced in our understanding of what mindfulness is and talk about these three elements of intention, attention, and attitude.
All right, so a little bit of a repeat there. Heard that before. So these are all in a playlist. So the next one is the next one we're gonna do. But I just want to because I'm doing this as a YouTube channel, I just want to interject and make sure that at least I remind myself of that, and I don't leave the video running. Well, I would rather not. So we've got the meditation article out of the way. Now this is just a short video, so we're going to knock this out, and that'll be the end of the video.
it doesn't take long when you start to develop a practice of mindfulness before you realize that we are virtually continually bombarded by thoughts. They're like weather patterns in the mind. There are sometimes nice, clear, sunny days, but there are an awful lot of cloudy days, tumultuous days, rainy days, turbulent, stormy weather. And again, the challenge is, how are we to be in relationship to all of that stuff that's driving our lives and our narrative of who I am? And so when you get in touch with what awareness really is, then the first thing you realize is that those thoughts are not me, and they're not mine. They're just like weather patterns. They're impersonal weather patterns in the mind. So then you can observe them like a scientist. Like, what is the nature of this thought? Where does it come from? I mean, and they come like bullets, fired out of a machine gun. They're very, very fast, so to speak. That's quite a militaristic image. But, another way is bubbles coming off the bottom of a pot of boiling water. If you've ever watched a pot of boiling water, say a glass pot, the bubbles tend to nucleate at the bottom. And then they go through the water and they go poof at the surface. So the thoughts are very similar, and that's where I use, and other people often use this term, the thoughts self-liberate. You don't have to get rid of them. People misunderstand meditation as, I just sweep all my thoughts away and then I'm in this like nirvana. What you'll get by trying to sweep all your thoughts away is a headache at the most, because there's no way to sweep your thoughts away. They will get you every time. And then you can have millions of thoughts about mindfulness and meditation, and those are just thoughts too. They're not meditating. But when you see that you're not your thoughts, then you can watch them in this kind of impersonal, more sort of, if you will, observing way, with kindness, with self-compassion, because a lot of them are heavily loaded with negative emotion. And you can see that if you don't touch them, if you don't do anything with them, if you don't get caught in them, they self-liberate naturally in awareness. The awareness is like touching a soap bubble. It's fun for kids and fun for adults too. Soap bubble, and you touch it, and it just goes. So I love that image. Like the thought is the soap bubble, and the emotion too. That's valencing the thought, and you don't need to do anything with it, because your awareness is like, it's not even a finger. It's not corporeal. The awareness, just the embracing of it or the arising of it, like in the sky, it goes poof all by itself. And don't take my word for it. This is something that when you sit down and you begin to watch, you'll see this is not rocket science. You don't have to sit in a cave for 30 years to have that kind of experience. All you need to do is, in some sense, get out of your own way. Now, I'm not saying that's easy. That's really hard. But if you can have moments when you get out of your own way, then you'll see that a lot of the stuff that we get so caught up in, it's like, it's a mirage. And that doesn't mean that the thoughts aren't valuable. I mean, I think it was Einstein who said, if you have one or two really good thoughts in a lifetime, you're ahead of the curve. Paraphrasing. So most of our thoughts are actually kind of mundane or imprisoning, but thinking is a very, very, it drives imagination, drives creativity. So maybe we need to just create a bigger arena for our thoughts and watch how they not only self-liberate, but also inform each other in some sense. And then all of a sudden you see something that no one in the history of humanity has seen before. And you apprehend it, because you're making, something is being revealed to you. I won't say you're making the connection, but somehow a connection gets made, and that's called an insight. And you're going to have profound insights. Science is, sort of storied, wonderful stories of eureka moments, insight, and it's usually not by driving, thinking, and banging your head against the wall. It's when you've thought as much as, you've gone as far as thought can take you. And then you rest in awareness. Maybe sometimes it's in sleep, or you wake up out of sleep, and then,
All right, so
I can say that the most common.
I really like that that image of a thought being like a soap bubble, where the moment you become aware that you're thinking, you can pop it, like you don't. And I've read. I definitely recommend. I say in just about every video, go to your local library online. So I was having trouble with. Yeah, it was stop binge eating, but this idea that your thoughts are not you, I found to be a very powerful idea, and that's basically the idea behind this book here, which I found to be really, really helpful. That was pretty good. I was happy with that. So next video, we'll be watching this 20-minute video here. We'll be reading this article here, which is a 2-pager. We'll do another round of formal and informal practice as well. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.